All right, let's jump right in. Ron, what'd you go see?
I went to see The Conjuring 2.
Did you see the first one?
I did.
You think we should have done a show about the first one before this?
Oh, is that some kind of dig?
On everybody.
Everybody here involved in the show?
Yeah.
Show, by the way, is called Movies with Ron. Working title.
All right. It might change.
I actually loved the first one, and that's why I wanted to do The Conjuring 2.
Did you want to do a little background on the first one?
No, man.
All right.
Everybody's seen The Conjuring. It's like the greatest scary movie of modern times.
Did you ever see the previews before you went to see this?
Did not.
All right. So you went in cold.
Cold, baby. Cold.
Did you like them? Are we going to start at the beginning?
Beginning of the movie?
Did anything happen in the theater?
Actually, yeah. So, I spent most of the day hanging out at Heather's house, and then I was like, "Oh man, we gotta go see The Conjuring 2. Got a podcast to record tonight." She was like, "Okay. When do we go?" And I was like, 30 minutes, we gotta go. So she freaked out, went and did her hair. Took the whole 30 minutes. We were almost late for the movie. But anyway, we get inside. So thirsty, gotta get a Coke. Go up to the snack stand. And right in line in front of me is a really old couple that are going to see The Conjuring 2. And I know this because the couple in front of them, the guy, is asking him, "What you guys going to see?" "Oh, The Conjuring 2. And guy's like, "Oh, that's too scary for us. We're going to see Now You See Me Too." Or as I like to call it, "Now You Don't." Anyway, the guy's like, "Yeah, me and my girlfriend here, blah, blah, blah." And his girlfriend is like probably 30 years older than him. And very, very, very large. Which is fine, you know. But they didn't seem like a good fit. And I was talking to Heather about it, and I was like, "Are they dating? Or is that his mother?" And
was it his mother?
no one will ever know. Unless he calls in. Has anyone called in yet, by the way? My sound guy says no. Anyway, they ordered their shit, and do we cuss on this? We cuss.
Yeah.
They ordered their stuff, and then took like another 5 minutes talking to the guy, like something's wrong. And maybe they should order some more Twizzlers, or maybe, how about an extra Coke or something like that. And I started freaking out because I have to see the whole movie. You know, I can't miss the beginning. So I'm like, come on. And I had one of those private fantasies where in my head what's the problem here? Some of us paid to see this movie. And then out loud, I just looked at Heather and I was like, "Can you get the drink? I'm going to go in." And she was like, yeah. So I go in there and I watch all the previews. I don't really remember many of them. Or any of them, really. Heather made it in time, though. So it was all good. So, here we go. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
He's not the best color man in the business for nothing, folks.
What the fuck?
Alright. The Conjuring 2. It actually opens up with another sub-story, like in The Conjuring 1, how they did with Annabelle. But this time, the sub-story is the Amityville Horror. Okay? And the very first shot of the film is from inside the room with those two weird windows, that look like eyes on the side of the house.
Yeah.
So immediately, anybody who, likes these movies, they immediately know, oh shit, this is Amityville. And you hear the lady, Lorraine Warren, talking, and she's like, "Yeah, this story is this one still haunts me to this day." Okay, so they're inside the Amityville house, and they're about to have a seance, and they're talking about the Lutzes and.
Is this after the Amityville Horror happened?
Yes.
Oh.
Because in present time. You know what? I'm not sure. It's definitely after all the haunting happened,
Was it after?
It's after all the murders happened. How about that?
Okay.
So, just right away, they're having a seance, and Ed and Lorraine Warren are there, and she's like, if anybody feels unsafe, just imagine yourself in a halo of light, and it'll protect you. And it's like, okay. And then she closes her eyes, and they dim the lights. The young Asian guy who played their little helper in the first one, he was in it for about 5 minutes, only for the Amityville scene.
Okay.
He's the guy that shut the curtains. He didn't have any lines at all.
I don't even remember him from the first one.
I remember him. I just watched the movie, actually, because I knew this movie was coming out, though I didn't see the previews. I made Heather watch it with me. She doesn't like these movies. They scare her. So anyway, here's our first experience with supernatural stuff in The Conjuring 2, and I immediately disliked it. This is pretty much the only part, well, it's not the only part of this movie I didn't like. I still like this movie. It's a good movie. Everybody needs to go see it, but if you don't have time, that's why you're listening to this, right?
Right.
Anyway, seance begins. All the lights are all dark, and then Lorraine Warren gets up and starts walking around in the dark world of the supernatural. That never happened in The Conjuring 1, and it was immediately just a big flashback of all of the Insidious movies. She's walking around in the spirit world, man. Okay? I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all, actually. I never talk out loud in movies, ever, and I actually leaned over to Heather and I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, I already don't like it.
Yeah. But anyway, it was not like Insidious, but possibly, they kind of purposely changed it up just enough, because what happens is she's walking around the house.
This is still at the Amityville Horror House?
Yes.
Okay.
She's walking around the house, and the murders are actually happening right there in front of her, and it's actually her who's doing it. So she's like experiencing the murders through the viewpoint of the killer, and the killer was their son, I guess Ronnie Lutz or Ron Lutz, I don't know, somebody Lutz, and he shot all of them with a shotgun, and every time you hear the shotgun cock, click, click, she like makes the motion with her hands, and then she moves her arms, as if she fired it, but she's not holding the gun, obviously. Then, so she's walking through, killing everybody in the house. They're all sleeping in their bed when they got shot. And then she walks by the mirror, and in the mirror is the killer, is the son. So then, she ends up in the basement. Like you do in the Conjuring movies. And it's a really scary basement. And there's this... She's following a little kid with white eyes. He's really scary. And she's freaking out at the seance table. And Ed is like, we gotta stop it. And she's like, no, he's trying to show me. And so she follows him down to the basement. He is scary. Basement is scary. Looks just like the basement in the first Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
There's mannequins with sheets over them and shit, that you're just like, that's coming alive, that's coming alive, that's coming alive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, so this kid, there's like a little jump cut where all of his brothers and sisters are standing next to him, and they all got white eyes too. And she's like, what's going on? And then they just point over to the left. She looks over to the left, and there's a big mirror with a sheet over it. So immediately I'm thinking about that movie Oculus,
Mm-hmm.
She pulls off the sheet. Off in the distance behind her, you see this nun. This creepy-looking, insidious nun. And so she turns around, and there's nothing there. And then she turns back around the mirror, and the nun's still there. She turns back around. She looks back into the mirror, and the nun is a little bit closer. So then she's like, oh, man. She turns back around. Nothing's still there. And she turns around, and the nun is actually standing in front of her, in front of the mirror, and it goes, rah! So that's all fucking scary. Yeah, it jumped. All the jumps in this movie made me jump. It was a good, scary movie.
Yeah.
All of those scares were really good.
This is while she's still in the...
In the seance.
Okay.
Anyway, then she's like, what do you want? Who are you? What do you want? And then the nun points. And so she looks where the nun's pointing, and then you see this big pile of chairs. And then the chair's like, blow away! And behind the chairs is a dark man figure standing. And then she comes out of the seance trance, and she's like, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, she turns to, and she's like, this is as close to hell as I ever want to be. So then it cuts out, right? And then we go to the little girl from the family that the movie is about. The movie is about the Enfield poltergeist, which is another supposed haunting that the Warrens have in their case files. Nowadays, I actually just found out that nowadays everybody thinks it was staged. Everybody does think it was fake. But not according to the movie. Anyway, there's these two little girls. And of course, remember, this is all in England. And it's in the 70s. So that means it actually took place... Does that mean it took place before The Conjuring? That was in the 70s too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Same era.
That'd be a cool thing to look up, maybe if we had a laptop in front of us or something like that.
Shut up.
I was asking for that before we started recording. He said, no, we have phones. Anyway. Heather is joining us. She's actually sitting on the couch, trying not to make any noise. She's got a big old smile on her face, trying not to laugh. So there's these two girls, and they're like hiding, and they're one of them's smoking a cigarette. They're little girls, like 11 or 12. And she's like, "Oh yeah, we completed our spirit board. Should we, should we do something with it? Blah blah blah." And they pull it out, and it's like this. It's a Ouija board, but it's been made out of like magazine print, like a movie ransom note. Okay, It's actually a pretty cool little idea there, visual. Yeah. And she's like, "Here, hold this." Hands her the cigarette. The little girl's not smoking the cigarette, but is holding it when they get caught by the teacher, and the teacher is like, "Get the fuck inside! What the fuck are you doing? Give me that!" She takes the cigarette. Girls walk inside. Teacher starts smoking it, and then walks back inside. Then they're leaving school, and all four siblings have now joined up together. They're walking home, and then one of them gets bullied by a bully, who's because the little boy has a stutter, which plays into the story a little bit later. It's actually kind of introduces one of the scary things that happens. He gets bullied. Kids making fun of his stutter. They're like, "Screw you, dickhead." And he gets put in his place, and they're all walking home. They get home, and they come inside, and their mom is, she's arguing on the phone with somebody about money, with bills. She's obviously very, very poor. The little boy with the stutter is like, "Did you get any biscuits? Did you get, Mom, you said you'd get biscuits." And she's like, "Well, I didn't have any money." And,
This is in the UK?
Yeah. It's in Enfield, in England.
Okay.
Enfield is, I guess, some sort of borough. Some sort of, low income, whatever. I don't know. A little house. It's, 2-story, but it's still pretty small. It's very old inside, with steam heaters and stuff. You feel that steam heat? All right. So it's bedtime. They're all getting ready for bed, and the mom walks up to the little boy. She's got a little plate of biscuits, which are cookies for the American audience. It's what people in the UK call cookies. Biscuits. And she's like, He's like, "I thought you had no money. I thought you had no money." She's like, "Well, I've been trying to give up smoking anyway." Also, back up a little bit. When they came home, she yelled at her daughter, "I got a phone call saying you were smoking." She's like, "I wasn't smoking. And now you're lying to me." So anyway, cuts to them going to bed. She gives the kid the cookies. And she looks at him. She's like, "Don't eat too many of these, because you might wake up thirsty." That might also, what I just said might have happened a little later in the movie. But, happens a couple times. They're always going to bed, because that's when all the haunting stuff happens. I might also add that I didn't take very good notes, or, any at all, during when I was watching this movie.
You're good.
Something I should probably do in the future. While we were setting up for this this recording, I tried to scribble some stuff down pretty quick, and we were ready to record before I was finished, so the detail is going to run out. How about that?
It's going to be front heavy.
But I'll do my best. It's definitely front heavy, baby. So the little girl, the main girl, Janet, is laying on the ground with the stuttery kid looking at a zoetrope. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
That's a little thing. Do you really not know what that is?
Should I Google it without you explaining it?
Well, you were in TV productions class, and when we were in school in Germany, and we had zoetropes there. Okay, it's a little, it's like a little carousel thing. It's like a big cup, and there's slits in the side, and you look through it while it's spinning, and inside there's like a cardboard ribbon of different pictures. They're all pictures of the same thing, but they all are in slightly different positions, and when it spins, if you look through the slits of the zoetrope, it animates. Okay? So they got this little one, and it's called the Crooked Man. There's a creepy little crooked man inside, and when you push the button, it turns on, it lights up, and it spins, and then it also plays the song, and it's like, the crooked man walked a crooked mile, and then did some crooked shit, and found a crooked mouse with a crooked cat. Something, right? So she starts singing it along with the little boy, and he's like, out with the crook. And she's like, it's okay, we'll just start again. And so then they do it again, and they do it, and she's like, oh, you did wonderfully. She's trying to help him with his stutter. And so then she's like, now you get a cookie, a biscuit, yay. And so then, yay. So they're going to bed. The first night when they're in bed, I might add that the siblings are 2 girls and 2 boys. The 2 girls are older. The 2 girls are in bed, and the older girl wakes up and hears the younger girl, Janet, who is the main victim of the haunting, and all the possession that happens to her. She wakes up and she hears Janet having a conversation, and she's like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? Don't. No, you need to go away. What are you doing? And then in this voice, it's like really deep and freaky, but still obviously coming from the girl. It's like, we're playing a game with Billy. Leave us alone. And she's like, no, leave Billy alone. And then she's like, this is my house. And the girl's like, what the hell are you doing? And the girl's like, so she assumes the girl's like sleepwalking, right? She's like, go back to sleep. Jesus, Fester, go back to your room.
So the mom's watching her?
Nope, the mom is asleep. This is when everybody's in bed.
Okay.
That was the older sister. They're sleeping in the same room.
How many sisters are there?
There are 2 sisters.
All right.
Okay, there's also 2 brothers, and they sleep in the same room. And the youngest brother has a little... He's got some part in the story, but mainly the older brother has almost no part at all in the story. He's just there. So anyway, girls... she gets the girl back to bed, and then the younger girl, Janet, she feels like a boom, and she wakes up, and she's not in her bed anymore. Now she is on the floor in the living room downstairs, almost as if she has fallen straight through the ceiling. And it's freaky. She hears some rocking, from the chair in the corner. It's weird. There's nobody there though, and she's going upstairs, and then it cuts to the other sister, and she's like, she hears the pounding on the door. Doom, 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 doom. Obviously, her sister's trying to get back in the room. She looks over at her bed. She's not in the bed. She's like, oh, Jesus. She's sleepwalking again. And she opens up the door, and nobody's there. So she's walking out, looking around, nobody there. And then her sister's coming upstairs. She's like, come on, get in bed. Get in bed. And she's like, she puts her in bed and everything, and then she hears the talking again. She turns around, and the girl is standing right by her bed, going like, this is my house, get out. And she's like, Jesus, go to bed. And then it cuts to the mom in bed, and she hears them screaming, a whole bunch of screaming. So she jumps out of bed, runs inside. She's like, what's going on? They're like, there's somebody in the room, somebody in the room. Oh my God. She's like, are you two screwing around? And somebody's in the room. And she's like, look. And then the little girl Janet shows her shoulder, and there's a big-ass bite on it. Big bloody bite. And she's like, Jesus Christ. And she looks under the beds. Under the bed, she finds the Ouija board. And she's like, you stupid shit. You playing with this crap? She tears it up. And, the little girls said they had played with it a little bit before bed, because apparently their dad is gone. And, he left them. And they were like, is anybody here that wants to talk? No? And then the little girl's like, is Dad ever coming back? And the thing never moves, so they were like, oh, screw it. So she tears up the Ouija board, which I guess in the UK is called a spirit board. And she's like, God damn it, you kids fucking go to bed. You're playing with this stupid shit. And then right there in front of everybody, the dresser in the room, shoom, slides across the floor and slams the door shut, blocking it shut. And so they just all start fucking screaming. Holy shit. And, I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but it kind of cuts away, right, at that point, to them running out of the house, all of them together, over to their neighbor across the street. The neighbor lady is like friends with the mom. They were doing laundry and, down in the basement, and the basement is like a fucking scary basement shithole. You only see a little bit of it at that point, when they're doing the laundry, but you can tell, like, oh yeah.
In the haunted house?
Yeah.
Okay.
What the fuck was I saying?
They were doing laundry.
They're doing laundry in the basement. You only see it for a second, but you're like, oh, well, this is a Conjuring movie.
Okay.
We'll see some more of this. Because it's definitely really dirty and nasty. Like, I remember thinking, she's doing laundry down there? Like, how can the clothes be clean? The washing machine has to be full of fucking mold and shit. Because like that, it just looks like it's gonna be. It's disgusting. Sound guy's moving my mic away.
Sorry.
I'm getting too poppy. Drinking coffee with a little bit of, what am I drinking here? Fireball.
He's over 21, by the way. So they get scared. They run across the street to the neighbor.
Yeah. Oh, also, while they were doing the laundry, a leak sprung on the washing machine, and it actually caused. It was actually a moment of comic relief. And they were like, "Oh my god, this house is so garbage," and you kind of laugh, and then they cut away. And that was earlier on in the movie. So they're running out of the house, all scared. They go to the neighbor's house. So they're all sleeping on the floor in the neighbor's house. Neighbors have a dog, little Rottweiler, and he's like, he actually walks over to the door, and there's a bell down at dog level, just mounted to the wall, and he just like paws at it, and he's like, ringing the bell. And the little boy's like, oh, what's he doing? And the mom, the wife of the neighbor is like, oh, we trained him to ring the bell when he needs to go outside. He's like, oh, okay, do you want to let him outside? Yeah. He goes and lets the dog outside. They're all like trying to calm down. So at that point, the neighbor man comes in, and he's like, well, there was nothing. I tore the place apart, top to bottom, and, couldn't find anything. He's like, oh, well, that's weird. And then the cops roll up across the street, and the mom of the family is like, what the hell are they doing here? And he's like, well, I called them. Obviously, somebody's messing with you, He's like, okay. So they cut to the two bobbies inside, looking around the house for whatever might be happening. And they're in the kitchen, which is all like dark and disgusting. And like, well, we can't really find anything going on here. Then they start hearing a bunch of boom, 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 in the walls and shit, right? And they start following the noises. And she's like, I think it's coming from the wall. The girl cop. And she looks at the guy cop, and she's like, give me a chair from the kitchen. And he pulls a chair into the hallway, out of the kitchen into the hallway. She stands up on top of the chair, and it's like, it sounds like it's inside the wall. And the guy's like, what, like a rat or a mouse? And then the mom is like, really big rat, whatever. And then, so they're both down off of the lady cop's off of the chair, and then the chair just slides back down the hallway, right in front of the cops, and then back into the kitchen, back to the kitchen table. Everybody saw it. The mom, the neighbor guy, and both cops. So then it jump cuts to them all walking out of the house. The cops are all like flustered, and she's like, the lady cop's like, well, this is, this is a little beyond our, our scope. But you can file a report. There's really nothing we can do, Anything else happens, file a report. And the lady's like, fucking report? Everything I do, I gotta file a report? I gotta fill out a form? She's like, this isn't really anything we can help you with, but I have a friend at the church, and we'll, I'll see if he can come and help you. Then jump cuts to the Warrens in America on TV. They're on a talk show. And they're, they're trying to do their, it's the same kind of scene where they were giving a lecture in the first movie.
And by the way, this takes place in 1977, which is 6 years after the first one.
All right. Good. So, yeah. They're on TV. And the host lady is like, we're here with the Warrens, and they are some ghost hunters, and, shit. So here they are, and now we're going to hear from Dr. So-and-so. And Dr. So-and-so is like, they're crooks. It's all hoax. It's bullshit. And he, accuses them of that on the air and everything, and it kind of makes them look stupid. And Ed, kind of jumps at him, and he's like, yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you a doctor of, anyway? Mm-hmm. And, almost like he wants to fight him on air, and Lorraine has to kind of hold him back. And then afterwards, they're all like, there's always somebody doing this crap. And then the priest from the first movie comes to visit him. And you hear, on a recording, something that happened after the cops left the house. And what happened was, the mom's coming home from work, and there's a TV producer guy. He's outside of her house, and he's like, oh, hi, so-and-so. I'm, Dickie Doo from, the television program Wide Angle. That was the actual name of it. And he's like, is it still happening? Is the haunting still happening? And she's like, just leave me alone. I don't want my problems out in the open for everyone. He's like, getting your story out there might be the only way for you to get help. And she, gives him a look, and then it cuts to them inside with a camera person, camera crew. There's a mic guy sitting with the two little girls on the couch. And so this is the girl that, gets possessed. Sometimes talks to, talks with, voice of the devil, whatever. And he had done a little intro to his show, and he was like, and what you will hear next is mind-blowing. So they're recording it, and he's like, so I understand that sometimes we can talk to the ghost? And she's like, yeah, it happens sometimes. Well, could we maybe talk to him now? And it doesn't happen at first, but then, and the girl's like, well, it's not a jukebox, is it? Like, well, yeah, I guess not. And then she starts talking. She starts talking in the demon voice. And he's like, everybody get the hell out of my house. And like, who are you? And he's like, and does a bunch of weird noises. And then he's like, Bill. And, he was like, what's your name? And he was like, Knock Knock. And I thought that was going to be the ghost's name, which wouldn't entirely be stupid, It sounds kind of dumb at first, but, that's weird, right? Kind of creepy. Anyway, it's not. He was like, okay, I'll play along. Who's there? And he's like, Bill. And it's like, and this is all coming out of the girl's mouth. And, who are you? And he's like, my name is Bill Wilkins, and this is my house. He's like, well, how'd you die? What's going on? Are you dead? You're dead, right? He's like, I'm dead. I died. I had a hemorrhage, and I died in that chair over in the corner. And it's like they can all see it.
Yeah.
And then the mom gets a look like, what the fuck? Like she didn't know this. Fucker died right there in the living room. So the priest is letting him hear the recording of that. And he's like, what do you think? What do you think about that voice? And Ed is like, well, he sounds very confused. Is this man schizophrenic or something like that? And the priest is like, that voice is coming from an 11-year-old girl. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, I'd like you guys to check it out. Lorraine does not want to do this because Lorraine has been getting visions of the nun. She's still seeing the nun, even after the seance is done. Yeah, I meant to do that. The rhyme. Anyway, nun shows up in her house, and her daughter sees it. She's like, Mom, who the hell's that? She looks over, it's a creepy nun. She follows the nun into the office. This is in Lorraine's own house. And she gets haunted in the office, and it was a pretty scary scene. Because apparently, Ed wasn't able to sleep, so she gets up and she sees him painting. He's like, yeah, I just saw this in my head, for some reason, so I thought this might help. So he turns it around, and it's like, scary nun painting! And, it's like, damn, dude, he's painting this shit? And she walks away, and she's freaking out. And he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, I've been seeing images of your death. And the nun has been showing her images of what happened in the basement. And this time, though, she sees who the guy in the shadows is, and it's Ed. And it shows him, and he's like all sweaty and shiny. And he's like, sorry, babe. I'm so sorry. Then it shows a big old spike come out of his chest.
Uh-huh.
He's just standing in the basement, and this spike just comes out of his chest. And it's like really big and over the top. You have no idea how this happened. Anyway, it's like this big, grody looking spike, and it's probably about as big around as a grapefruit. It's huge, and
Is it a vision?
yeah, this was a vision. So she's been seeing her husband's death, and she has interpreted it as, if we keep doing this, you're gonna die. So she's like, I don't want to do any more new cases. And he was like, well, we got to help this girl, And the church is like, listen, I understand, you guys can just go and be our eyes and ears. And if anything, if it's real, we'll take over. And if it's not, you guys are the ones who can tell us that. So they decide to go. And they get there, and they're interviewing the little girl. Ed's doing the interview. Everybody else is just sitting there. And Lorraine had been talking to her on the swing set. I find out this was a big part of the preview. She's like, did you, does when he's talking through you, does it feel like the voice is coming from you? She's like, no, from behind me. And does he ever just talk to you? Yeah. What does he say? He wants to kill you. He wants to hurt you or something like that. So Ed's interviewing her, and he's like, we'd like to talk to the person who's suppressing this family. And she says, he also wants the girl to hold a mouthful of water while they're doing the interview.
Uh-huh.
To prove to the church that she's not faking the voice.
So the Warrens went to the UK?
Yeah, they go to the UK. They're staying there in the house with them, too.
Okay.
And it's just those two. And then there's the other investigator that was with them during the show, the British guy.
Uh-huh.
While the swing set talk was happening, Ed was getting a tour of the house, and they show the bedroom, the girl's bedroom, and they keep it chained up and locked because they keep hearing things in it at night. And she goes inside, and the whole place is like full of crucifixes hanging on the walls. Everybody was donating them to them and stuff after the TV show happened, and now it's like a big old circus. And she was like, yeah, we were hoping it would help. And he goes, did it? And she goes, no, we hear crap in here every night. And the room is completely trashed. All the furniture is all busted and broken. So then they're doing the interview, and she holds the water in her mouth, and he's like, can we talk? Can we talk to the ghost? The girl spits the water out and says, he says to me that he doesn't want to talk with everybody watching him. And he's like, oh, okay, well, how about we all turn our backs? Maybe that'll help. And so he gives her a nod, she puts the water back in her mouth, and then they all turn their backs. And then the camera, the shot is Ed all the way on the left side of the screen, clear. And then you see the girl in the shadows behind him on the right side of the screen, and she's all blurred out in the shadows. And you can still make out her shape and her outline. And then Bill Wilkins starts talking, and he's asking him stuff, and he's telling him like, yeah, I came here to see my family, and they're not here. And Ed is like, you're the one oppressing this family? And Bill Wilkins is like, is that what I'm doing? And he's like, why are you doing that? And he's like, because I like to hear them scream. And it's all scary and stuff. And then at some point during the interview, and that shot did not break away from that shot. At some point during the interview, you just realize that it's not the girl sitting in the chair anymore.
Uh-huh.
And they have morphed the shape in the background, and now it is the old man sitting in the chair talking, and you can see his mouth moving and stuff. Still all incredibly blurry, but you can see the motion. while he's talking. So he's like, yeah, why don't you leave him alone? Why don't you, go to heaven? And Bill Wilkins is like, I'm not a heaven man. And he's like, oh, man. Well, you know what? I don't care what you believe. And he just holds up a crucifix. And then the guy starts freaking out. He's like, where? And he starts saying these weird things. He starts saying, like, I, it, me, let go, it, me. And it's like weird, kind of incomprehensible.
Is he like confronting the old man?
Who?
Physically?
No, he actually still has his back turned.
Oh.
So that's how you see the ghost in the background and Ed's face in the foreground.
Oh.
So the haunting is actually happening right behind him. Anyway, then the spirit leaves because of the crucifix, and then the girl spits the water out, and you're like, whoa! Then they're all in the Winchester pub, the Warrens and the mom and the British investigator, and then Franca Potenta is in this movie, and she is she's the big skeptic. She's like, well, she could have just, she made you turn her back. She made you turn your backs. She could have spit the water out and then just took another gulp, before you turn back around. So this could be fake. And the mom's like, yeah, it's not fake. And Ed Warren's like, sometimes, he gives a little speech. She's like, sometimes that's what it takes, is to believe when nobody else is believing. That's how you can help. And they're like, do you believe her? And he's like, yeah, you know what? I do. And they're in the house. Scary shit. Cut to the neighbor's house where all the kids are sleeping. The 3 kids that are not being possessed now sleep in the neighbor's house, while the mom with the possessed girl, who's possessed like all the time, not constantly, but it happens a lot, they sleep together in the house, and that's where the Warrens are sleeping. There is an incident that happens. This might have happened before the meeting in the pub. So the Warrens are sleeping in the little boys' room, and they're in separate beds. And he's like, I can't sleep this far away from you. And she's like, well, you're going to have to. And the girl ties herself to her bed at night because of the sleepwalking. In the middle of the night, she falls through the ceiling and is now laying on top of the ceiling in the living room downstairs. And she is also tethered to it by the rope. Like the rope is going all the way up through the ceiling. And she's just like laying there, like she has gravity to the ceiling. And she looks down in the corner chair, and that old ghost guy is sitting there. And he's like rocking. And he's rocking. And then he just like gets up. He kind of looks at her a little bit, and then he walks upstairs. And you just hear the clunk, 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 clunk. And then you just hear him go, arr! And the rope just pulls up. And she's like, ah! And she gets pulled through the ceiling. And now she is in her bedroom where all the crucifixes are and shit. And she's like, oh, God. And then all the crucifixes start shaking, and then they all start turning upside down. And there's like 500 of them on the walls, and like they're all upside down and shaking and stuff. And she starts screaming. Mom wakes up, goes to the door, which is still locked and chained shut, but it's opened up a little bit. And the girl's face is at the door, and she's like, oh, my God, Mom, there's somebody in here, somebody in here, somebody in here. And then a hand grabs across her face and pulls her away, and then the guy's face, he's got big old yellow eyes, comes into view, and he's like, Arr! And then he pulls her back into the back of the room. So the mom's screaming. She gets the Warrens, and they're like, we gotta get the door. She's in there. Somebody's in there with her. And Ed's like, get the key. She finally fumbles with the key. They get inside. The man is not in there, and the girl is all tangled up in the curtains. She's choking.
Mm-hmm.
He gets her untangled, and the mom's like, I saw him. I saw his face. So they're like, oh, man, this is crazy. Then at night in the neighbor's house, the little boy wakes up hearing the bell ringing. And he goes to the front door, and there's nothing there. Then he goes to the back door, and the dog is sitting there. This is where things take another little turn away from the, pretty much everything that made the first Conjuring so good.
Yeah.
It departs from the spirit of the first one. But it's still, like, really cool what they did with this dog. You hear the bell ring, and then he sees the dog just sitting there, looking out the door, like barking. He's like, oh, do you need to go out? And then he opens up the back door, and Dog does not move, and he walks back into the house, having left the back door open for the dog to walk out. The dog's just still sitting there, just sitting, facing away, looking out the door. And then the dog just starts fucking moving weird, and then starts to get a little bit taller, and you realize that it's not a fucking dog, and it is a fucking person, and they were just slumped over, and they're standing up now, and they stand up, and you're like, whoa, man, that's cool. It was obviously just, special effects, it was a dog at first,
Yeah.
but they just changed it at some point. Anyway, the thing stands up, and it's gigantically tall and all creepy and fucking weird, and it is the Crooked Man from the Zoetrope.
Oh.
And it is huge, and it looks all Tim Burton-y, and it doesn't look like anything that needs to be in The Conjuring, and it's all creepy. It's very Insidious-like, because it's wacky and all cartoonishly otherworldly. But it is pretty fucking scary. Okay, and it starts stomping around the house and saying stuff, and it's saying the Crooked Man. It starts saying a twisted version of the rhyme, and it's kill this crooked family and his crooked fucking kids and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And it's got a crooked umbrella and everything, and it's weird, man. And kid's running, and it's stalking through the house and stuff, and she the little boy is jumps back into bed, and he's look, oh my god, it's coming. And then around the corner comes the little girl Janet, and her eyes are yellow, and she's I'm gonna kill ya. And I think she makes some people rise up in the air and fling against walls, and everybody's freaking out and everything. And I don't really remember what happens after that scene. Anyway, so then later we're in the house, and the Warrens have decided that they all need to be a family again, and love is how you're gonna defeat this thing, because what happens when you get bullied at school? Well, the others stand up for me. Well, then you need to stand up for Janet, because this spirit's bullying her. And then there's an actual song routine where he pulls out a guitar and he starts singing "Wise Men Say," and all the kids are singing along, and it's really cute. It's a good moment. It's a poltergeist moment where they were, remember when it was nighttime and the little boy was sitting there talking to the parents and the old lady told the nice story, and it gives you a nice little boon of confidence just before the big battle happens, And it's all lovey-dovey, and it makes you smile. And then at night again, haunting crap starts happening. So there's a bunch of commotion in the kitchen. By now they have cameras set up, because they're trying to catch, trying to find proof for the church. Mm-hmm. And they can't use the interview on tape because of the fact that their backs were turned. So...
Was there a video camera?
There was a video camera in the kitchen for the event that is about to take place. There was not a video camera for the interview.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and that is kind of a major plot hole.
Okay.
Given how techie they got in the first movie. Stuff starts flying around in the kitchen, and you hear the voice. Rawr, rawr. The older brother starts walking into the kitchen, and all the other kids are no, don't do it. And he's we gotta stand up for her. Don't you know what Mr. Warren said? And he goes into the kitchen, and he walks into the kitchen, and the little boy, or the other girl, is before he walks in, the girl's can you see it standing there? Do you see it there? Janet saying, can you see it? It's standing there. Well, what's it doing? It's playing with the knives. And the little boy walks in there, and he walks into the kitchen, and in the kitchen counter, every knife in the kitchen is jammed into it. And it's creepy, right? And then he pulls one out, and he's looking at it, and then he turns back around, there's nobody in here. And he looks out into the living room, and he's what's going on? And then the older sister is Janet just disappeared. She's not here. And then he looks right to his right, and Janet is up on the kitchen counter with a fucking knife in her hand. And she's all yellow-eyed and crazy. And then the door slams shut. And there's a whole bunch of commotion and everything, and it's crazy. And then all the grown-ups are coming in, and they're trying to bust the door down. They can't do it. And Ed has to break it down. And he gets in there, and everything is just torn to shit, and nobody is in there. So then they hear the little boy whimpering, and he's in the bottom of the cabinet. And they pull him out, and they're trying to find Janet, and he turns around, and he goes over to this weird little closet with all the electrical panels and shit in it, or maybe like an AC, I don't know, something, but there's a whole bunch of wires and everything, and it's very, very cramped, and she is like stuffed in there, and her hands are all like in a weird, wrapped around some pole. It's very odd, and it's what it's supposed to be is like, there's no way she could have gotten in there. They even took the trouble to say it afterwards, after he pulled her out.
Yeah.
But he opens up the door and sees her in there, and she's got the yellow eyes, and she's doing that thing again. Me, go, it, no, me, go. And she's just saying it over and over. So then he pulls her out, and then somebody says, how did she get in there? So that's what's supposed to let you know that it was supernatural, how she was stuffed inside. They didn't show him pulling her out. They just show it from like the viewpoint of the closet. You just see his arms pulling her out of the closet. But I imagine it would have taken some doing to get her out of there. Then later, Franka Potenka is looking at him, and she's like, it's fake. The whole thing's fake. And they're like, what do you mean? She's like, come here. They
We haven't seen her since the first time?
Not since the meeting in the pub.
Oh.
Apparently she's been out in the van watching the video with her tech guy.
Oh.
And they show him the video, and because there was a camera pointing at the kitchen, and all you see on the video is the little girl in there throwing shit around, like turning over tables and everything. And when you saw it happen in real time, it was all supernatural looking. Like one of the tables just like slams against the wall, and you just see it through the doorway. Now, according to this video, what was actually happening was there was the doorway, and then right to the left of it was a little girl throwing stuff around, picking up spoons and bending them, make it look like it was all, ghosts and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, yep, okay, we gotta leave. And everybody's like, what are you doing? You can't just leave them. You can't just leave them. You give them hope and then you just leave. And he's like, dude, we just caught on camera. She's red-handed, faking an event, Even if, the church would be asking us to leave, even if we didn't believe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she's faking it. So then they're leaving.
The Warrens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're being driven to the train station. This would be a good time for me to go back to when Lorraine was being haunted by the nun in her home. And when the nun was messing with her in his office, because he had the painting hanging on the wall for some reason, and then you see like hands come out from behind it, like you see the shadow walking across the wall, and it stops behind the painting, and it's just as high as the nun in the painting, and it's weird. So it like walked into the painting from behind it, and then the painting's mouth just opens up and comes at her, and it's all like, whoa, scary. And then she wakes up, and she's back sitting on the couch in front of her daughter with her Bible in her hand, scratching it with some pen or a knife or something like that, like over and over and over and over and over. And her Bible was just like in shreds. So they're packing up to leave, and as they're leaving, the tech guy who was doing the recording, he hands him some audio reels, and he's like, here, you might want these. And they're leaving. He's like, yeah, that's great. He just throws them in the bag. So then they get on the train, and he's trying to put all of his stuff away and everything, and then something falls, and he looks down, and it's the two audio reel tapes, and they have fallen onto the ground in the shape of a cross. And it's a startling visual for him, and he kind of does a double take, and then he's like, wait a minute, and something hits him, and then he pulls out the two audio tape players, and he's like, set up these tape players, I gotta do this. And she sets him up, and then he's like, remember when we were hearing him say all that weird crap, like I, me, it, and she's like, yeah. And he's like, he did it twice, remember that? He did it once in the closet as well. It's like, yeah. And so he plays them, and he plays them together. He plays them one at a time first, and then he plays them together, and they sync up. And they are now saying, and it's the ghost saying, like, it won't let me go. Help me, it won't let me go. Help me, it won't let me go. And it's like, whoa, And then right then when the lady, Lorraine, who thus far has always been like, I don't feel anything in this house. I don't feel anything but their own fear, I don't feel any presence here. I believe something's obviously happening, but I can't feel anything. Right then, when she hears that thing, boom, she slams back in the seat on the train, and then she gets a vision. And we're back in the insidious spirit world. And she's walking through the house, the haunted house, the new one, the one in England. and she sees the old man sitting in his rocking chair, and she walks up to him. She starts talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I tried to," and he's like very less threatening now, and he's like, "Yeah, I came here to see my family, but they're not here, so I want to leave, but it won't let me." And she's like, "Oh no," and she sees the nun or something, and she freaks, and then she wakes up, and she's like, "That's it. Bill Wilkins is not the threat. He's actually a pawn, and there's like a demon in that house, and that's the one that's been showing me the visions of your death, and that's the one that wants him. We need to get back there now." So they go out and they catch the guy that drove him there, and they go back, and as they get there, haunting shit is happening. Everybody's locked out. The girl's inside, alone, and Ed is trying to get in the house. So he's trying to bust the door down. It doesn't work. He busts the window out, and then the couch comes up and comically, bonks him in the face, and he flies backwards, and it's kind of a stupid moment, in the movie. It's supposed to be pretty harrowing, but it didn't quite work. So he runs around, and he's like, "I gotta go around the back." And they go down, to the basement door. And, the basement is now completely flooded, okay, from that leak that happened earlier. So there's 4 feet of water. It's waist deep. Earlier, he was down when, there's also another scene when they were all trying to be a family, and Ed was fixing stuff around the house like he did with the car in the first one. He's helping them, and they're all having pancakes and crap. He was, trying to fix the washing machine, trying to fix this leak. While he's fixing the leak, the mom of the family is holding the flashlight, and she sees behind him Bill Wilkins walking through the water, coming to get him. And she's like, "Oh my God, behind you, he's behind you." And he turns around, there's nothing there. And she's down in the water now, and she's like, "He was right behind you." And then she looks down in the water, and he's right there. And he's like, "Rah!" And he grabs her, and he pulls her down into the water. And it's freaky. And then she comes up, and, Ed gets her up, and then she's like, "Look," and she shows him her arm, and she's got a bite too. And in the bite mark, just like the original bite mark, there's 2 teeth missing. So there's a little clean spot. And then they're like, "Whoa," and then something falls down into the water, from above them, and he fishes it out, and it's the guy's false 2 front teeth. It's, it's this whole retainer thing, with only 2 teeth on it, the ones that he was missing, obviously. And he, puts it up to the bite and everything, and that's the scary shit that ended up happening in the basement. He gets into the basement, and then the door slams shut behind him, and she's like, "No!" And they're having this moment, where, "I know you're about to die" moment. And she's like, "Don't, just wait for me, please." And the neighbor's going to get something to hack the door down. And he's like, "I gotta go. I know I promised you, but I gotta go, babe. I gotta help her." So he leaves her. And she's screaming and crying.
Is Janet missing?
Janet is up in the house. That's why he's trying to get into the house.
Yeah.
So he has to actually break through the bottom of the kitchen floor and then climb up through it. So he's born into the scary house shit, and only he could be in there. And he's in there, and he's walking around, and then you see on one of the steam heaters the handle is turning. Oh, it's turning by itself. Oh, something's happening there. It's turning. And then just as he's crawling past it, the valve blows open, and all this hot steam blows right across his eyes, and he's blind. So now he's walking around the house, and his vision, he can still see, but it's unbelievably blurry. He can't, it's useless. He is blind walking around the house, and you as the viewer are "Man, that sucks." He's walking around, you can see crap behind him and stuff. The nuns walking around, and they had been talking, him and his wife. "We got to find out the name of the demon. Got to know the name of the demon." And she keeps looking back, and she's like, "I know the name of the demon. He gave me the name of the demon. I asked him, and he gave it to me in the vision." And it was when she was seeing the nun in her house. She was like, "Who are you? What do you want?" And even in the Amityville basement, she was like, What do you want?" And she pointed at the dark man in the corner. "Who are you? What do you want?" And then she's like, "I need my Bible." And she runs out to the car and gets her Bible and opens it up to where she's scratching shit into it. She's just carving into the pages over and over and over, shredding them up. And she takes this one section, and it's a V, and then she turns it, and it's an A. It's all just carved into the Bible. And then she spells out Valak. And she's like, Valak is the name of the demon. Now I can have power over him. So she's trying to get in. The neighbor gets half of the door broken down. She gets into the basement. Then we cut back to Ed fucking upstairs. Has to fight the Crooked Man. Crooked Man's up in the top of the house, and Ed is fucking, holy shit, and running away from him and everything. And
Can he see?
he can, it's still blurry. You can tell like his vision's like sort of coming back, and after a while, they just stopped addressing it in the film. His face is red, but as Lorraine figured out the name of the demon, she turns around to run into the house, and the tree out front gets struck by lightning, and all of the branches fall off of it, and now there's a big ass spike.
Yeah.
And it's about as big around as a grapefruit or a melon, right? And that's the spike that you saw coming out of his chest in the basement, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Ed's about to die. And so he's running away from the Crooked Man, which is like trying to kill him, and then all of a sudden it just like burrows into the floor, and it's going through the walls, and you can see it all cracking and everything, and he gets into the bedroom that was all locked before, and the girl is just standing in there in front of the window, and he's like, Janet, come on, we gotta go, baby. And she's all like demoned out or whatever, and the glass shatters inward, and it cuts her face up, and she steps up to jump out the window, and then he leans over and catches her. And she's hanging out the window, and now he's hanging out the window too, catching her, and he's holding on to the curtains for the window. And the curtain rods, the rings start popping, so you can tell he's going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he's going to die. By this time, Lorraine has made it upstairs, and she comes into the room. She's about to go grab him and save him, when the demon nun is like, "Rah, bitch!" Fucking throws her back against the wall. Demon nun is standing in the corner, and then Lorraine is like, "I know your name. Your name gives me dominion over you. Valak. You're Valak the Defiler, Valak the Crap, Valak the Shitface." And as she's saying all that, she's like, "Go back to hell." And then the demon nun's face like implodes, and it's going like, "Oh, you got me!" And it's melting away inward, and it's all like, it is gross looking, and all creepy. And instead of being all bloody now it's all like disgusting and like shitty and rotten and everything. And then, no shit, it morphs into a big horned fucking devil demon in the house, looking at her and roaring, and then it gets sucked into the wall back down to hell. And then she grabs Ed and pulls him back in, and then they're all okay out front, and he's getting checked out by a paramedic who's looking at his burned eyes, and then just turns to Lorraine and goes, "He's gonna be fine," and then walks away. And he's like, "You saved me." No, she's like, you saved me, or whatever. And he's like, "Well, you saved us." She's like, "Thanks for believing in me." He's like, "Yeah, we believe in each other, and it's all wonderful." And then it kind of trails away. And
That was the big battle?
that was the big battle.
Okay.
That was the end of the movie. There is some, some type font that shows up at the end where it's like, yeah, the mom still lived in the house until she died in 2003, and she died in the chair in the corner.
Oh, wow.
And Ed and Lorraine Warren are leading experts on all this shit, blah blah blah. It's not all that interesting, but the most interesting thing of the ending is all the old photos that they show, like they did in the first one, and they show the real family, and they show it next to the actors
Yeah.
who played them. And then they show the end card, it's just like this old-timey looking photo of the house, and it just says, down in the corner says The Conjuring 2. And they go the crazy music, which is kind of, reminiscent of also Insidious, da-da! And it's that's the end of the movie.
All right. So the nun was the big bad guy?
The nun was the big bad guy. She was actually a demon.
Okay. And the last you saw of the Crooked Man was when he burrowed himself back into the house?
Yeah. Apparently he burrowed himself into the house and then came up in the bedroom and
stopped Lorraine from coming inside. Came up in the bedroom as the nun, you know.
Oh, okay.
The Crooked Man thing, the Crooked Man belonged in Insidious,
Oh, yeah.
not in The Conjuring. So, it has lost a little bit of the spirit of the original. 'Cause the original was so poltergeist-like.
Yeah.
You know how Poltergeist was like the perfect horror movie, you know, in the 80s, because it was scary as fuck, and, you know, like you and I were talking about it once, and, you know, you said it best. You said simultaneously scary as hell, but then at the same time, like the perfect family movie.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, kind of off the mark for the first Conjurings. More scary than family oriented, but, you know, still left you with that, you know, The Conjuring 1 is like the Poltergeist of this modern age.
Yeah.
And this one, sadly, is a little like Poltergeist 2.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is like, you know, still good because it's, you know, it's a Poltergeist movie, but, what the hell is this big monster at the end? You know, when we get saved by the Indian and the spear and all that crap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But I'll tell you, all the scary stuff was scary as fuck.
All right, cool.
So there you have it, everybody. That's The Conjuring 2 at the movies with Ron.
I'm Chris, by the way. So what's our runtime at?
1 hour, 11 minutes.
All right, that sounds good.
Oh, so basically as long as the movie. Probably a lot less once we edit out all the dead air and coughing.
Well, we had a lot of EQ change-ups going on. Getting you right was a bit of a task.
Yeah, I bet.
I had to move this fucker, the mic, further away from you to get it more like Chris's. Apparently, Chris, we got you spot on.
Oh, he's perfect. He doesn't talk.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, anytime you did talk, it was perfect.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So, our leading man needed more flagship.
All right, everybody. In future episodes, we'll figure out how to end properly.
Yep.
All right, see ya.
Bye, guys. Ta-da!